Good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. Beautiful New Year's, well, it's second. It's today the first or the second. I've lost track already. Title of this talk is The Alchemy of Pain. The Alchemy of Pain. So I was a little hesitant about talking about this because it's kind of personal, but I want to talk about it because I want to talk about practice. I've been writing about practice all through my spiritual journey. There's always been to practice. You got to practice this. You got to meditate. You got to do yoga. You got to practice, and so Zen talks about practice, and yoga talks about disciplines, and we all know what practice is because if you were ever a kid and you had to take piano lessons, you were made to practice while other kids were out playing in the yard. You had to I remember that. When I got into Cub Scouts, I quit. I didn't want to practice. Unless the practice comes from you, organically, freely, joyously, it's a discipline. I mean, it's imposed on you. And it creates a tension, a resistance, and eventually you stop practicing because the resistance just wears you down and you finally say, oh, what's the use? I'm not getting anything out of it. You're not getting anything out of it because you're resisting it. So we're talking about the practice that is spontaneous. We're talking about the practice that you do, whether you get anything out of it or not. That practice that you do for free. That you do because it has no use. If it has a use, then you're doing it to get something, and that's attention because you are not having it and you want to get to it, so you do the practice to get to it. And that takes effort. And gradually, the effort wears you down to, you've come to the point where, oh, fuck it. I'm not going to do it. It just falls away, the practice, unless it's spontaneous. So I want to talk about spontaneous practice that will kick in when you need it. So what the experience I want to talk to you about is then, to illustrate this point of the alchemy of pain. Well, let me explain alchemy for a minute. Alchemy was the medieval science. It was more of poetic science. It was the spiritual science, where the scientist was searching for the elusive philosopher's stone, this principle, this formula that would transmute base metal into gold. Now this is a metaphor. So our scientists are looking for the philosopher. What's the philosopher's stone? But that formula that will transmute sunlight into energy or fusion. They just finally discovered fusion. Whatever. They're able to create energy out of nothing. Create energy without having to use fossil fuels. That's the goal, you see. To create energy without side effects. That's the philosopher's stone, you see. So the alchemy is a metaphor for using what is base in your life. What do you have that's base, that you've got too much of, that you've got everything, where everything is base metal, like water or oxygen or earth, you see. If you could make anything out of earth or water or air, you see, that would be a base metal, a base that you could transmute into something useful, or gold. So the metaphor goes to transmute. That's not change like this, but it's like a butterfly. A worm transmutes into a butterfly. there's no point where you can say there's cause and effect. It just transmutes, becomes the opposite, you see. So the alchemy is this magic that does not really work in cause and effect, which is the way science works. You know, you get a cause and an effect. Transmutation is a sudden reversal of one into the other that you can't cause externally. Okay, so the story I want to tell was that then when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, last spring, a pretty big enlarged prostate, you know, and so I was scheduled for a radiation treatment and hormone treatment. But before I could get to it, I stopped peeing. And the nurse said, well, if you can't pee, you got to go to ER because, you know, you can just hurt your kidneys. So I went to ER and they gave me a catheter. And the catheter, the bladder, rejected the catheter. That was a surprise. So when the bladder rejected the catheter was working, but the bladder said, I'm supposed to be in control here. You're gonna pee. So I began to have these spasms to pee, but there was no pee. And they increased. And so I went back to the urologist and they said, well, the catheters, they kept trying to come up with others. They gave me a pill and they changed the catheter and they were trying to do different things, but nothing seemed to work. And the pain got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So what was waves became a constant tsunami of double over screaming pain, 24 hours, until finally, and I had to go to radiation treatment. My wife was driving me to radiation treatment. I was hanging on to the dash screaming, and I had to lie on a radiation treatment. You got to lie there for about 5 minutes, 3 minutes or something, and I had to lie there while I was having to pee. Anyway, it was a mess. It was a mess. But anyway, the point is, after 2 weeks, I went to finally in desperation, I went back to the ER and they tried to see if I could pee without the catheter and I couldn't. So I couldn't live with the catheter and I couldn't live without it. Perfect double bind, perfect double bind. And so they gave me this hydrochloric, big, powerful opiate, and it went away. I could understand. I was already start thinking, where can I get some more of these? But before I ran out, suddenly it went away. And the bladder said, okay, I give up. I'll let the catheter do the job. And it just went away. So the alchemy of it was really a spiritual experience for me, if I use that word. It was part of my practice because I had never been in intense pain. It was kind of like a combination of kidney stones and giving birth, I imagine. But it was constant. So I began to sense, that this pain was so intense, it was burning away my comparing mind. It was burning away my discriminating mind. It was burning away my thinking mind. The mind that says, I can't take this. Oh, why is this happening to me? Or what can I do? I can't, oh my God, I can't do, why? Well, there was no thinking. There was just pain. There was just intense pain. It was like a purification. So what I'm trying to describe here is in the alchemy of pain is that pain is purifying when there is nothing but pain. When there's no way out, when there's no hope, and when you can't even think. There's no thinking. There's no little mind out there saying, oh no, what's going on? This thinking mind was just burn away, just burn away. And all you can do in the alchemy of pain is to surrender to it, is to accept it, because there's no choice. I think that was what was so interesting about this for me, because there was no way to fix it. There was no choice. I had to accept it. I had to accept this intense pain. So there was no grievance, there was no anger about it, there was no, why can't they fix it, fucking doctors and all this, you see. None of that. It was just nothing but the pain. So it was a purification of pain. And when and suddenly it was gone, as suddenly as it came, and started peeing on my own, and that was it. I went to the doctor after the treatment and said, your PSA is 0. It's all dormant or whatever. I don't know. I have a checkup this month to see what's going on. But anyway, it's like Forrest Gump, you know. It was, when, you know, and then it wasn't here. It was kind of like gone. So I looking back on it, and it is that I'm describing it for me in my practice was that when you have a practice, and your practice is to become awake and aware, when your practice is to allow life to be, then your practice will integrate and use whatever is happening to you as a process of awakening. So what I'm describing here, rather poorly, I imagine, was that this unexpected pain was integrated by my practice into awareness. When I came out of it, I was more aware than when I went into it. I was more alive when I came out of it than when I went into it. I was more creative when I came out of it than I went into it. You see, there was an alchemy here. So whenever anything is absolute, and there's no second guess, there's no option, there's no choice. There was no choice in this. There was just the pain. It was the choiceless pain. I had to choose it. There was no option. It was not, I can get out of it, they can fix it, oh my God, all that periphery stuff, that thinking, was all burned up, you see. So it was choiceless. There was only one choice, and that was to have the pain. So when you get yourself in that kind of a situation, you can allow the alchemy of pain to go on and come out of it more whole than when you were when you went into it, more aware, you see. So when you're in a situation where there's no way out, allow it, accept it. I think this is the message of the cross. So what was Jesus demonstrating by his, not teaching, but demonstrating by going to the cross, was acceptance and allowance of the pain of the cross. He allowed it. He had no choice. You see, oh, he didn't have to go and all that. The situation he was in was an alchemy of pain, and he accepted it, not in order to get something. He had no choice but to accept it. I think that's the point I'm trying to think. Usually we think of a choice, well, I'll do it to get something. I'll accept it in order to get something. I'll do it in order to get something, you see. But when there's nothing to get, and you can't not, there's no choice then the pain is life, and you are allowing life as pain to be exactly what it is, and that is liberating. That is liberating, you see. So anyway, I hope I thoroughly confused you, but but the alchemy of pain, alchemy is a great metaphor. What that means, you can use anything in your life as a transformation of base metal into awareness through total acceptance. See, when there's total acceptance, the choosing mind, the discriminating mind, the complaining mind, the comparing mind, the ignorant mind, is dead. It just drops off. It can't function there. It's bypassed. It's bypassed, and your mind is now one mind, not a mind divided against itself, comparing, oh, I should do this, that should have been better, this is bad, this is good, all that yada yada. All that's gone. You are just the present moment, and if the present moment is pain, you are just that with no exception and no complaint. No complaint, you see. And that's the alchemy of pain. Thanks for dropping in.